Okay then, and welcome to another episode of the Ignite Your Mind podcast with myself, Sanjay Patel. I hope you guys are doing well. Today, again, I've got another special guest, and I know I say it every week, but I have. They've all got stories to tell. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kirsty Bell-Jack. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Very well, thank you. Yes, no problem. Thank you for coming on. It's always exciting when we have these conversations. Now, I don't actually know nothing about Kirsty. But I love the fact that I don't know anything about you. I mean, I know bits about you from your Instagram, and that's about it. I kind of know what you do, but really, how much do we know someone through Instagram? Let's be honest, right?
Absolutely.
So, Kirsty has agreed to come on and tell her story. I'm hoping it's going to be a relatable one, but also a very interesting one, because we were just on before and we couldn't stop talking. So, so it's probably a good sign. So, Kirsty, first of all, how are you feeling about this?
I'm good. I'm a little bit nervous. It's always kind of nervous to
Good nerves,
be sharing
right?
and stuff. Yeah, but
Yeah,
good nerves. Absolutely good nerves. Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's been fun.
Cool. All right, Kirsty. Without let's not delay. Take us back for the people listening now to give you an idea, or give them an idea on a picture of who Kirsty was growing up. What kind of a girl were you?
So I grew up, my parents were in the army. So I grew up kind of moving around constantly. And I was actually having a conversation with my dad about this the other day. So we used to move schools. So sometimes I'd be in a school for a year, then we'd move to another school. And lots of people in the army, they move around kind of battalions together. But our battalion never did. So we moved individually, which meant that constantly having to make new friends, constantly trying to fit in. And I was talking to my dad about this the other day in terms of, because I was thinking about, like, I love expensive things and I love, things like that. And I was like, where does that come from? I was like, why do I want to do that? Obviously, being a coach, you're constantly questioning why you do something. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, we obviously never had loads of money, and I would always want, I want the Adidas popper trousers, like the popper things.
The Kappa ones.
yeah, and I wanted the Adidas ones, and
Yeah.
my parents got me the active ones.
Yeah.
So I always fell, and I wanted a Helly Hansen jacket. And my parents bought me a feeler one. So I constantly just felt like I was on the back foot and always trying to fit in, always trying to do. And I was like, I think that's now where I'm like, like that, viewing success as having all of those things that I always wanted and being able to have them. So growing up, I have a younger sister, and she was, the child that played football. So my parents would spend every weekend taking her to play football. And we've then since had conversations around that in terms of like whether I felt, and obviously not realizing as a child, whether I felt slightly abandoned by my parents, because both of them would always take my sister. So I would then have to go to a friend's house, or, it would never be that I'd be spending it with my parents, because they would be spending it with my sister. And my parents are now like, all right, Kirsty. And I'm like, no, it's nothing. There's no issues with that. I'm just exploring as to why I might do the things that I do now, where it possibly stems from. So so I spent a lot of time just trying to fit in, trying to make friends, trying to work out who I was. And I don't think I ever really did. It was just kind of going with the crowd as to whoever I kind of ended up being friends with. And actually, I don't even really speak to anyone I went to school with, because you just don't keep up those relationships, because it's just flitting. And I was always really envious when I moved back to the UK at 14 of people who had, their grandparents lived down the road and they'd grown up with their cousins, and we don't have any of that. My grandmother lives in Scotland. We'd see her for a holiday once a year. We just don't have that kind of relationships in our family. So
interesting. So let's just slow it down a second, just to get a bit of clarity on this. So where did you actually live?
So I spent the majority of my time living in Germany. So different places.
What ages are we talking?
So I was born in Northern Ireland, and I left Northern Ireland when I was 3 months old. And from there, I lived in Germany till I was 4. Then we lived in Cyprus for a year. And then we lived back in Germany again until I was 14. And then we moved to Southampton.
Blimey. All right. It's been all over Europe. Okay.
Yeah. And then I moved to Paris when I was 18.
Oh, right. Okay. We'll come on to that.
Yeah.
We'll come on to that. All right. Okay. Interesting. I mean, it sounds like from a personality trait perspective, you were kind of like me in a way. Like, you're always kind of trying to keyword fit in, because you felt you were excluded, but you weren't excluded. It was just kind of the way it was. Which I kind of get that. I mean, from such a young age, the fact you just said that, feeling like you've been shipped off to your friend's house whilst your parents go do something with your sister, it kind of, even you're saying this today now, it kind of obviously was a thing, but probably back then you probably didn't realize too much what was going on because you were so young, right?
And also I think I just saw it as like, brilliant, I'll get to go and spend time with my friends, don't have to hang out with my parents. Like, there was no, I don't remember ever feeling anything. It's now just kind of reflecting on it, going, how does that make me feel? Like,
interesting. I mean, it always stems from when you were younger, right? All these things like thoughts, feelings, places, you know, people you're going to be around, surrounding yourself with, a lot of it does stem from your childhood days. That's why it's so important. But you know, not every parent is perfect, not every parent get it right. They are going to make mistakes because we're all human. So interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So then going into your sort of later teens, give us, you said you were like a try hard person and like wanted to fit in, very similar to me, but like give me an idea of why or what that kind of person was like when you were coming out to 18 years old. Like, did you change at all, or were you just like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because that's all I know, sort of thing? Or were you?
I think I was who I was, and I think I was okay with that. But I think that I would just, you know, I would take on traits of other people. So I've noticed that I'm very susceptible, and it's really weird, but I'm very susceptible to how people talk. And I can easily pick up accents, and they can become, and I'm not trying to do it. So I think I'm very easily moldable, I guess. So I'll kind of like go towards, oh, everyone kind of likes this, so I'm gonna, and I'll very much kind of do that. When I was 14, I started school in Southampton, and again, it was like trying to fit in and trying to, you know, work out. And obviously I was obviously very different then, because obviously in my other schools everybody was in the army, so that was just it was a normal thing. You know, we would have soldiers parading in our playground, we'd have tanks going through. That was very normal. So I was
that doesn't sound normal, but I suppose for some people it would be normal, right?
It was very normal. And obviously to come to England, you know, I was a weirdo. Like, no one really got, like, you know, and, you know, people would make things like, oh, are you a Nazi? You know, do you support, like, and it's just, you know, no one understood. So I massively felt very, very different then. And then I remember and this has impacted me a lot, like growing up, but I was in New Look and I bought some socks, and on the socks they said, I love me. So I bought socks. I thought they were really cool. They were New Look. So I got these socks, and then I wore them to school. And then I wore them in my maths lesson, and, you know, I didn't think anything of it. And then a girl in my class saw the socks. It became this enormous, ridiculous thing about how I loved myself, how I thought I was the most amazing person ever. They would sing songs as I walked past them. They would chant things. They said I wanted a clone of myself, that everybody should be the same as me because I'm so amazing. And obviously at the time I was obviously really upset, but I'd made some friends, so I was okay. I had some friends. But what I hadn't realized was that had probably forced me to kind of just play a little bit small, because maybe I had done something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone by buying those socks, wearing those socks, not thinking it was okay, and completely got shut down for it. So I was kind of learning that it's not okay to love yourself. It's not okay to try and do the things that you want to do, or kind of that self-expression. So from that age, I very much learned that that's not okay. Try not to be yourself. Don't give too much of yourself away. Just kind of play into how everyone else is doing and just fit in.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question on that. So now, being where you are today, how do you read that situation from that person who spotted those socks and started taking the mickey out of you and stuff?
They're just, you know, it's their own reflection of themselves. They're kind of projecting onto me. They're feeling their own insecurities. You know, I've been a nanny, so obviously I've worked with lots of young people, and, you know, I've had conversations with them around kind of bullying and all of those types of behaviors, and, you know, talked about actually what tends to happen is obviously when someone feels extremely insecure in themselves, they will force that onto somebody else, so it takes the light away from them. So yeah, I totally get that now. But obviously as a 14-year-old, and I think I'd been in the school a month, maybe 2 months, So it was all really kind of like really new, and it was just like, whoa, okay. And I was like, I just want to go back to my old school. You know, I just want to go back with people who get me and get the whole kind of like where I've come from and stuff. But
you didn't know, right?
No.
You stayed out your comfort zone. Good.
Yeah.
Good. You learned a little trait there. That's a good thing.
Probably never wore my socks again though.
No. Now you will though.
Definitely. I've tried to find some and I can't find them anywhere. But yeah, I really wanted some.
You should just get some custom made with your name on and everything. I love me. Me is Kirsty. Right. So interesting. So I mean, this is good because your upbringing sounds like it's relatable for a lot of people like me, for an example. Like I was always trying to fit in, and I was always trying to be not actually I even tried to make a scene in classes when I was like 13, 14, and I thought it was a cool thing to do because I thought it would get me friends or it would impress someone, right? Because you're just trying so goddamn hard to get people to like you. But now I realize, I'm like, whoa, well done, Sandra, you're an idiot. But you know, at that age you don't know, you're so susceptible to everything, so you're like a sponge, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so moving forward to when you were 18, so you went to Paris.
Yeah.
Why?
So I was working in a nursery, so I had been to college and I had done a year of college. I was doing childcare and I was like, oh, I don't love this, you know, so what can I do? And I was doing a placement, so I got offered a job in the placement that I was doing. So I went there, and then a family there that I was working with said, we're moving, they were French, we're moving back to France, will you come with us and be our nanny? And I was like, absolutely. Like, all of my friends at this point were in relationships, kind of date, like all of those sorts of things. And I was yeah. And I was the single one. So I was like, right, this is my opportunity now just to go and do something completely different. And yeah, so I went and did that. And I remember for like 7 months of being there. So I lived with the family and I loved them and I loved the little boy I looked after, but I didn't have any friends in Paris. I had no friends whatsoever. And I remember just saying to myself, it's okay. I have friends. They just don't live here. Like that would be my little thing of being like, I have friends, they just don't live here. Like it's okay. And then I went on a meetup site. So, and I think it was called Meetup. And I just joined that. And then I made one friend, and then from her I made other. And in the end, I had like a massive group of friends and stuff like that. But it was quite possibly the most wonderful time of my life. I loved it so much. Absolutely loved it.
So how long have you been doing nannying then?
So I started nannying when I was 18, and then I did it until I was 24. Then I went into fostering. So I was a social work assistant and I was working in a fostering agency. And then when I was 30, I went back to nannying again. And then this year I started coaching.
Interesting. And in between all of that, you said earlier you got engaged in a relationship, a long-term relationship.
Yeah, so I was in an 8-year relationship from 22 to 30. So I went traveling when I was 21 for 6 months, and then I came back and then got into a relationship from there. So yeah.
How was that?
So obviously we were really young when we got together, and I guess like all relationships there were.
You weren't the single one anymore.
I wasn't the single one anymore.
Yeah. There you go.
Absolutely. But yeah, so obviously there were kind of ups and downs, and we moved in together very quickly. So we moved in together after 7 months, and that was more because it was kind of convenient.
How old were you at that time?
So yeah, I would have been 22.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's more kind of convenient, I think, that it just kind of worked for both of us that we did that. So that's what we did. And there was ups and downs, and, you know, we had a big group of friends, and, you know, we all hung out together and stuff like that. But I think the big thing from that is I became extremely codependent. My kind of whole purpose, I feel, just became around this other person. And I became the person that I never wanted to be. So I never wanted to be the person that did all the washing, you know, made sure that by the time that they got home that that dinner was made. I didn't want to be that person, but I became that person. And I've kind of reflected on it, and I was like, you know, obviously I was never forced to do that, but it was just easier because it would save an argument maybe about why something wasn't. So I would just do things to make life a bit easier. And yeah, it wasn't it didn't become what I wanted it to be, but I also became so fearful then of being by myself that I stayed in it. And I think for him as well, I think we became very fearful of being by ourselves, and because everybody was in relationships, and we'd constantly have people saying, you know, when you guys are going to get married, when are you going to do this, when are you going to do that, you
Pressure
know, all
started.
so much pressure constantly. And I would joke and be like, will you marry me? And he'd be like, no. And I'd be like, oh, I'm only joking. Obviously wasn't, like, I was like, please please, I just want to be the same as everybody else. And that's something I've really realized literally yesterday, because I've always been like, I want to get married, like, and I've been like, I was into a podcast and they talk about marriage, and I was like, why do I want to get married? And I was like, I want to get married because everyone else gets married, and I just want to be the same as everyone else. I just want to fit in and be the same. But also, and obviously I know this isn't true, but the idea that being married gives you that security in your relationship, and it's ridiculous because I completely know that's not true, but I was like, wow, that is why I want to get married, because I don't want a big wedding. I'd literally get married, I'd go to a registered office and get married. I'm not religious, you know, it's not for any of those purposes. I quite like my surname, so I would probably keep, you know, all of these things. Like, so it was like, why do I want to get married? And it is the idea that I will feel secure and being the same as everyone else.
This is a really big topic, and I'm so glad you've mentioned this. The first word that was coming into my head was stigma. The stigma around what you should do or what you have to do because everyone else is doing it, which I think is absolute bullshit. And this is why there's so many relationships, not all relationships these days, which are unhappy. And it drives me mental, right? I just try to go against the grain all the time now, and I love it because it's like it's the unknown, isn't it? It's like, whoa, what happens? I don't know, but let's just see what happens. It could be really bad. So, give me your thoughts on the stigma of what relationships should be or shouldn't be in this scenario. Like, why should you get married? Really, like, you know, what are you doing it for? Like, are you doing it for the right reasons? You know, does it mean that much to you just because you're seeing all your best pals getting married all of a sudden, and because they've got 2 kids, now you've got to get 2 kids? Like, give me your thoughts on this, because this is a real big topic, and I think a lot of people will benefit from really hearing the truth.
Yeah. So I definitely, at the age of 18, thought that by the time I was 26, I would have a house, I would at least be engaged, I'd be married by the time I was 28, and I would definitely have at least 1 child by the time I was 30. So I had already, and I'm sure many people do this, had been like, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, da, da, da. So obviously in that relationship, I thought, that's what's going to happen, you know. And then as time was going on, and I was, you know, some of my friends were then meeting people, and then they were buying houses and getting married and having children, and I'd still not done any of those things. I was like, what the hell? What's going on? Like, am I failing? Like, am I meant? And I would definitely try and just play it off and be like, oh, you know, we're just not really bothered about doing that right now. Like, like it's fine. My ex-boyfriend would tell me he didn't want to get married. Like, he would openly say that. And I was like, obviously in my own little head being like, he'll change his mind. He'll change.
So at some point constantly like comparing.
Yeah. And I very much, and I've learned this about myself as well, I fall in love with potential. So I will be like, you know, this is the person they're showing me, but I think that they could be this person. So I will fall in love with this person, even though they're showing me who they are, and I should trust that's who they are. I will create my own idea as to what I think that they could be. Or that, you know, when this happens, you know, when they get a better job and they do this that they want to do, then they'll be this kind of person. And that will, and like, that's what I would do, you know, and I wouldn't be doing it consciously being like that, but that is what I'd create that story of my idea of how things would go. And that's been a huge learning for me, especially in this process of learning about myself, to then not do that again in another relationship and just be like, this is the person they're showing me, trust it. If they tell me they don't want to get married, then it's okay for me to say, I do want to get married. And if that doesn't work, that's okay. Not then me go, oh yeah, I don't want to get married either, in hope that they will change their mind. Because that's not fair on me. It's also not fair on the other person. But yeah, I was definitely just surrounded by people that we're getting married, kind of living this life, and I just thought that I was failing at life. So becoming single at 30, I thought I had massively failed at those key things that you were supposed to do in life.
Yeah.
I had failed.
Where do you think this stigma all stems from?
I think it's just, do you know what? I was talking to a friend about it the other day, and we were saying about like fairy tales and, you know, Disney films and all of these things of like, you know, the princess is so sad until the man comes along and the prince saves her. You know, all of these things that we're constantly seeing, constantly kind of that you get saved, or, you know, you need to have another person in your life to have a happy, fulfilled life. You can't do that by yourself. You're constantly like, I need to have that person, you know, having that person to do things with. So you need to just hold on to the person you've got, even if it's not the right person, because it's so scary. And also, like, I remember when I was first kind of single, and, you know, people would always be like, oh, are you okay? Like, are you really okay? And obviously that I wasn't, but you're like, okay. But also be like, are you dating? I'm like, no. They're like, oh, it's okay. You'll meet someone. Like, why are you R-ing me? Like, you don't know that I'm not. Why are you
doing a head nod?
Yeah.
You know, you watch Friends, don't you?
Yeah. I love Friends.
Oh, so do I. I mean, you've spoken about this before, but yeah. This is literally just reminded me of that.
Yeah, but everyone just feels sorry for people who are single. You know, there is definitely this kind of like, oh, you'll be okay. Like, yeah, I will be okay.
Here's a little point though. Okay, so you're right. Like, I've literally had exactly the same. Like, I've been single for like 6 years. It's crazy, but do you know what I've learned? I actually, when I was exactly like that. I was like, well, no, I need to get married. Like, I need to have kids. Like, I need to do all this. I need to buy a house. Blah blah blah. And then I started my personal development journey, and I went literally backwards and sideways, and like, you know, into a hole, and then back out of a hole, and then on a roller coaster. It was great. So I literally was like, well, now I realize that when I speak to people about my situation, and I'm not rubbing it in their faces or anything, but they were like, I actually like quite envious of you. Like, you're not in a relationship. You don't have that hassle of someone. I was just like, what do you mean hassle? Like, if you're in a relationship and you're quite like, we're saying these things, I don't get it. But on the flip side of that, generally people will always tell you the not so nice things rather than the really nice things. Like, they wouldn't tell you, last night we literally just cuddled on the sofa for 3 hours. Your mates are not gonna, my mates are not gonna tell me that. They're just not. They'll tell me about, oh no, just an argument, like I'm doing this, I'm in the doghouse or whatever. I'm just like, right, okay, well. And then they're like, you know, don't rush, Sanjay, don't rush. I'm just like, look, I'm not rushing. I'm just like, if it comes, it comes. If it happens, it happens. Great. But I'm not, you know, they are quite envious of my position now, because I am single and I am sitting here doing my own thing, and I am trying to live like this life that I'm trying to create. But they, obviously it's still difficult, but I feel like that stigma, I agree with you. It does come from like the fantasy side of when you're growing up. You see this picture, magical story happening, and then all of a sudden you think it's going to happen. And that's backed up by your parents as well. My parents have been a massive instigator. I think every time I see them, pretty much like, are you seeing anyone? Yeah, you know, my mum's like, I really want you to find someone so you're happy. I'm like, what? I've had to sort of educate her over the last couple of years, like, that doesn't mean I'm not happy. Like, you can still be happy if you almost become in love with yourself, right? Become your own best friend. So I know you're a big advocate for all this, because I've seen what you're doing on Instagram and stuff. So tell me about being your own best friend. If someone's struggling to do that, what do they do?
So I think the first thing there is like just them noticing that they are struggling, that they're kind of, you know, are they, you know, just like I love curiosity, and I know that I am so curious about how I do things, like, you know, and I'm constantly, and, you know, my friends now just will sometimes have to say to me like, stop coaching, and I'm like, I'm not meaning to, like, I'm genuinely like curious into the way that people think and the why they do the things that they do.
I get that all the time. Are you coaching me? I'm like, no, I'm not coaching you. I'm just asking you the question.
I'm just curious as to, you know, have you thought like, and I love it. Like, I'm so curious, and I'm really curious into myself and learning more about myself. So I think the first thing is just kind of people recognizing, you know, say if they're using a dating app, and, you know, if someone matches with them, how are they feeling when that match happens? And then when nothing happens from that, or they start speaking to them, and that person who is essentially a stranger doesn't speak to them anymore, how do they feel then? because I know for me personally, I would feel really shit. I feel great, I've matched, then I would feel really shit. And so this complete and utter stranger had complete control about how I felt about myself. Because rather than thinking, oh, maybe that person's a bit busy, maybe that person decided not to date anymore, maybe that person just doesn't really, it's not really interested, I would go, oh, maybe I didn't say the right thing, or maybe I'm not as pretty as someone else they're talking to, or maybe I'm just not good enough, you know, maybe I'm not smart enough. Like, and those are the things that I would then, you know, it'd all be about me. Like, what did I do wrong? When potentially it's got absolutely nothing to do with me whatsoever. But it would kind of come this like little cycle, and then I'll start speaking to someone else and I'll do exactly the same. So I think first of all is just recognizing if you're falling into that trap of kind of basically giving all your power away to someone you might be interested in, because if they have all of the control about how you're feeling, then you have no control whatsoever. And obviously it's about that awareness of like, you can control how you feel, you know, you shouldn't be allowing someone else to do that. And then like, so for me personally, I have found writing to be a massive thing to just help me get stuff out of my head. So just journaling, and I'll just journal every morning, and I, you know, sometimes I'll just write utter crap, and it'll be like, today I'm going for breakfast, I think I might have this, and then it will just be but other days it will be some weird and wonderful thing of like, you know, this has kind of come up. So I was journaling about my why once, and I was just writing about why.
I love that.
I know, I was just writing about my why, and then I was writing about, you know,
what is your why?
My why is to, so I'm also an empowerment coach, and I just want other women to just realize that they are good enough by themselves, and they don't need to be defined by their relationship, by their, you know, their status or anything like that. They are good enough in however they are. So that's part of my why. Part of my why is to show myself that I am not what I've always thought I was, and that I'm not very smart, that I'm not worthy of this, like to just show myself what I internally know about myself. So I've always had this kind of, I feel there's something more, I feel I can do something more, but I've always kind of just played it really small and just been, never liked to talk about success. You know, I want this, I don't like, it makes me feel really uncomfortable, because I'm fearful of success. That's something that I've realized as well. My why is to be able to, you know, my parents talk about this villa that they want in Tenerife, and part of my why is like, I would love to be able to do that for my parents. Like, love to be able to do that. I live with my parents now. I'm not working because I'm doing my kind of coaching and I'm building up my business. They're completely supporting me. They're the most wonderful people in the world. So I'm like, if I could give them something back, that's what I would want to do. There's probably more to my why, but I can't even think off the top of my head.
No, that's fine. I think, Joe, what I've realized, I mean, that's quite a good explanation, to be fair. And you've said that quite well. And I think your why will change.
Yeah,
right? My why over the last 7 years, when I started my personal development journey, has changed numerous times, and also the purpose as well.
Yeah.
Purpose is, you know, and what I realized is that I just simplified it down. Right, you overcomplicate it sometimes in your mind as to what your why is and what your purpose is and what you're here to do on, you know, in your life. And like when you said about you were scared of success, you had that fear of success. Like, I think everyone goes through that, and that almost just stops you already before you've even started.
Absolutely.
So you've got literally no chance of even being successful, even if you tried, like, because it's stopping you from doing it. Right. I just wanted to go back to something, because for any single people out there listening, you're listening to two single people right now. This is a good area of topic, right? So, how long have you been single? 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. You put an Instagram post about that, didn't you? So happy anniversary to myself. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What would you say, like, to people that are really just struggling to find someone because they have so much self-doubt in themselves, like they may have been single for quite a while, asking for a friend. No, no. But like on a serious note, like I've spoken to a few people, and even some of my clients as well, my coaching clients, they have built up this like tolerance of like self-doubt over a year, 6 months they've been single, 2 years, whatever it might be, and they're just really struggling to close that barrier. And what you were saying earlier about going on the dating apps and seeing this and having this quick conversation, then going cold. There's this big question about ghosting as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, what would you say to them? Like, how would you help them on that?
So I would kind of ask them, so like if they're wanting, like they're needing this relationship, like what is it that they're seeking from this relationship? Like, are they seeking companionship? Are they seeking like security in a relationship? Are they seeking, you know, what is it that they're expecting this relationship to fulfill? Because we put so much expectation on another person, and we expect them to make us happy, which is completely unfair. You know, you should never put that on to somebody else, because they can't actually do that. And you know, everyone has their own stuff going on, and that's not very fair. So I would definitely kind of just explore as to what it is that you want from that relationship, and then look at how you are doing that for yourself. You know, are you being your own best friend? Do you enjoy spending time with yourself? Are you doing things that you enjoy? Have you got hobbies? Are you doing those things that you think that you need someone else to do it with, or to give that to you? Are you doing that for yourself? Because once you start doing that stuff, then you'll start attracting those sorts of people to yourself, because you're a different person. You know, the person that I would attract now, I would like to think, would be different to who it was 3 years ago. You know, 3 years ago I was a broken mess who was just desperate for anybody to want me. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I know my worth. Like, you know, if there's red flags or something I'm not comfortable with, like, okay, I'll pass. You know, whereas before it'd be like, but I would also flip-flop between desperately wanting to be with somebody and going on dating apps and thinking that I needed to have somebody, and then sabotaging it. So I would then sabotage because I didn't feel worthy enough of how they were being towards me. So for example, I was dating this really nice guy. We've been on a couple of dates, and I'd said that I really wanted, you know, when I said I wanted to get a Range Rover. And, you know, in my nannying job, I drove a Range Rover, really loved it. I said, I want a Range Rover. So on one of our dates, I turned up and he had bought me a remote control Range Rover. Like the sweetest thing, like so lovely. And my internal thing is thinking, whoa. Like, no, I'm out. Like, no, because I was like, this is too much. It's too nice. Like and without realizing, obviously there was a whole thing. I don't deserve to be treated like this. I don't like this. Makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm not used to this. You know, previously, I think I was maybe used to, I can never really think of the word, but I think and obviously not intentionally, but I was made to feel very insecure and not good enough. You know, that I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't smart enough, and all of those things. So I think that when someone did show me those sorts of behaviors, I couldn't accept it because I didn't believe that was true. And I felt that there must be. So I would then sabotage it. And I would then be really mean. I'd be really rude. And I would just push them. And then I would push them just to see, they'll leave. They'll go. So at least then I'm in control of them leaving. So I would just keep pushing. And I would see myself doing it. And I'm like, oh, here I go again. But I would put on the front of being like, oh, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, right? When you say it out loud like that, it just sounds
so
like
ridiculous.
This is just absolutely balmy. Like,
because also I'm not that person. I'm a really nice person, but I think I was so terrified. And I remember calling one of my friends and I was crying down the phone and I was like, I'm not okay. Like, I'm not okay. Like, I can't keep doing this. And that's when I kind of like just took a little bit of a step back from dating, because I was like, I'm just going to keep getting myself in this situation of just a guy coming along, you know, either him ghosting me feeling shit, or him saying he likes me and then me being horrible to him, because I'm clearly not in a place where I'm accepting of anybody else right now, because I don't feel worthy. So I need to do something about that.
Okay, so here's a question on that topic. Dating apps, right? There is certain dating apps with certain intentions. Now, I know it's down to individuals, it's not down to everyone, but obviously now Tinder has this stigma that people just go on there to sleep with other people.
Yeah.
And obviously there's girls that write on there. Obviously I'm looking from a male's perspective, but there's girls that write on there, I'm only looking for a serious relationship. Well, I'm just like, if I put that onto mine, like how would that reciprocate? Because obviously from a male perspective, you know, males would never generally put that on there just because we're men, right? But like for a woman to put like, oh, I'm only looking for a bit of fun, or I'm looking for a serious relationship, like I don't know how that would sit with me. Like, I mean, look, when you're 25, 24, your early 20s, you don't really care. I think
Yeah.
I'm 34 now. Like, I have a different motivation, a different agenda. I'm not here
Yeah.
to mess about. Like, I haven't got time to mess about and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, like, what's your thoughts on what is the best way to approach this?
I think just be authentically yourself. Like if you are looking for a relationship, you feel comfortable telling people that, you go out and tell that, because then you're only going to be having people interacting with you who want the same thing. Because again, being in that, living in the potential of somebody, they might say, oh, I don't want a relationship, but we might go, but they might, I might be the one to change them. I might be the one that does it. And we put all of this, and then when it doesn't work out, we feel really shit. But actually we've set that up ourselves because we knew what they told us from the very beginning. So like, if you're looking for a relationship and that's what you want, and you want to get married and you want to do those things, that's your truth. You own your truth, because there'll be someone else that's looking for exactly the same. We
Put
shouldn't
that
have
shit
to
out into the world, right?
yeah we
We
shouldn't have to edit. We shouldn't have to edit because we're worried about what someone else is going to think of us, that they're going to be like, oh god, they're a bit desperate. It's not desperate, it's being honest, it's being authentically you, it's being, you're being who you want to be, and you're wanting what you want in your life. That's okay. But it's like, dating is such a complicated thing. And I remember when I was in a relationship, and I remember being like, oh, like I really miss like dating, like, because dating's really fun, and it would be really fun to use a dating app. Now I'm like, I hate them, like dating.
Yeah, I'm so done with this now. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, this is just from my perspective. Someone who's listening might think differently. I don't really like dating apps.
I don't like them.
I think I get they do work. Like, I've got a really good friend who's actually met her partner, and they got married via a dating app. It's great. Like, I've known numerous people that have met people from dating apps, but personally, I mean, I just like to meet people face to face, or just have. Do you know what I mean? Like the old school methods, which are obviously typically a bit harder these days, because of obviously the situation we're in. But at the same time, I think just having that authentic conversation, and just bumping into someone somewhere, and all of a sudden having a conversation about something completely random, and then having that spark or whatever, I just feel like that just sits better for an initiation, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely agreed. Because obviously a lot to do with dating apps is obviously based purely on
it's kind of like they're forcing you to judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, but I guess like now we're just in such a different world now, aren't we? So like, if people are wanting to do the dating thing going on now, just be really open to, as soon as you can, jumping on like a Zoom call with the person and actually having a proper conversation with them, because especially through text messages and stuff like that, like things can be so misunderstood. And if people are busy working, if they're at home working, but they're they might not message back when you want them to, and then you start and they blue tick you, and then you're like, oh god, like did I not? And then you just get into so as soon as you can, you feel.
What do you mean?
So like on WhatsApp, so like when someone reads your message, you get 2 blue ticks.
Yes.
So they blue tick you.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. Yeah. So like people then go, well, they've read my message, why haven't they replied? Because we live in this society now where we just expect people to be constantly at our beck and call. Like, well, I've messaged them, so they should return my message.
I've never heard that saying. I have heard that saying, but blue
tick you.
Oh my god, what kind of a world do we live in, right? I mean, but it's true. This is the reality that we're in, and this is the reality that technology has given us. It's just something that.
But it just feeds into people's insecurities.
Massively.
If they were already, and that's the thing, like if you're already feeling a bit insecure about it, if you're already questioning it, and then they blue tick you because they're busy working, and you're then creating this story, like, is this the right person for you? If you're that insecure when it's, you've been speaking to them for a week, if you're already feeling like that, for me, that's somewhat of a red flag, there's something that's kind of not sitting right with you. Trust your gut, trust your intuition. There's something that isn't okay. There's something that person's telling you. But yeah, dating is hard, especially now. And I'm sure there are probably lots of people who are kind of in that panic mode of like, I'm never going to meet anyone because of a pandemic. But you will just trust.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I've got a couple of friends who actually have met people during this time,
yeah,
because it is possible. Like,
yeah,
obviously there's social distance and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think once they got to know each other, then
yeah,
obviously they started, being more intimate, I suppose. But
yeah.
each to their own. Everyone's got to make their own decisions. All right, okay. Very good, Kirsty. Very good information. It's just very good knowledge, and hearing it from your perspective just gives it a whole different view. I think it's quite nice to hear.
Hmm.
All right, so moving forward, what are you up to now? What is the plan?
So the plan,
Go on. Before we jumped on, you did
yeah.
say you were going to go to Australia for a year, but obviously you can't do that at the moment. So
Yeah.
what is going on?
So yeah, the plan was that I was going to go to Australia in August. I have a year's visa that runs out the end of January. So I'm going to try and get a waiver to see if I can just extend that, which should be fine. So I am currently, so I like to make a joke out of it, and me and my parents laugh about it. So I'll say things like, I'm an adult, and they'll be like, are you really? And I go, yeah. So I'm 33, I live at home. I'm essentially currently unemployed. I sold my car, and I was like, so all of these things, on an outside perspective could make you feel really shit. I'm literally the happiest, most content I've ever been.
Kirsty, can I just say something to you right now?
Yeah.
This is, and the only reason I was stopping you is because I literally was living at home last year. I think it's weird how I don't really know you, but how similar we are. So I was living at home last year, and I was 33.
Yeah.
It's only this year I'm 34, and I've actually moved out. And I kind of didn't have a job. Well, I kind of did have a job, but then I started the coaching business. It wasn't really doing too well at the start, and then obviously it was doing okay now. It's just very interesting to hear that you've accepted the fact, because I struggled with the fact that I was moving back home. I lived in London for 2 years, had an amazing time. Like, I was working, going out, doing what I wanted to do, and then moved back, and I felt I failed.
Yeah. I
I was
can
like,
get that.
whoa, like, what am I doing? And then it took me a while to actually recover and be like, actually, wait, like, you're okay. You're saving money. Your parents, like, yeah, fine, they're helping you out at the moment, but it's only temporary until you make a plan on actually what you want to do for your later life. So
Yeah.
it was just quite interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's a key thing of like kind of understanding like that this isn't the end just because that's where you are right now. That isn't your whole life. Like, it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
And actually I'm so grateful because I know there are so many people, especially working, in fostering and, working with children who wouldn't have somebody, at 33 years old to go and move back in with. Like, I'm so grateful that my parents are able to give me this opportunity, and they're so supportive of what I'm doing, and they're fully on board with it. So, I feel extremely blessed that I have that within my life. So, the plan is
What's their names?
Karen and David.
Big shout to Karen and David.
Yeah.
Big up yourselves.
They are wonderful humans. So it's to build up my coaching business and to kind of get aligned clients who kind of get my message and want to kind of do that bigger work and improve their life and create the success and the happiness in their life that they obviously all deserve. And then in terms of Australia, I have no idea currently. Who knows when the borders will open. Me and Amy, my friend Amy that lives in Australia, we will talk about it and be really positive about it. And trying to send it out to the universe to let me in. But yeah, so there's a possibility that I'm thinking about maybe going to Bali for a few months next year. Obviously the joy of coaching is that you can do it from anywhere. And you can kind of do whatever you like. So I feel extremely aligned. I feel extremely like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Everything feels really natural. I had been training to be a social worker. That didn't feel quite right. Then I was training to be a therapist, like doing psychology. That didn't feel quite right. This feels so right and so aligned. And I feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. All of those things have been great in teaching me things. So I'm in a bit of a trust mode of just doing the do and doing the work. And I'm creating a program at the moment, and I'm hoping to be able to launch my program in like one-to-one clients in December. So I'm just doing that and just trusting and learning and trying to create and just trying to stay focused with the bigger vision of what I could potentially create in the future. But yeah.
It's a very, very important story you've just told there, is trusting your intuition. like trusting your gut, like the amount of times you don't trust it in the past, and now all of a sudden you're starting to trust it. It's not that you may not be making the right choices or whatever, but you just feel better about it.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer of, like, if you're doing that deep inner work and you're feeling how you want to be feeling, that's what brings you ultimate happiness, right? In the long run.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
Yeah.
So in 10 years time, I know you've got no magic ball, we haven't got a crystal ball. Actually, wait, there was something to come up for me when you were saying that you know, you wanted to go to Bali next year and you wanted to do all this, and you're obviously building your coaching business. I had someone when I told him that, and the response that I got, which I felt was really interesting, I would have dealt with this response in a whole different way years and years ago. They said to me, "Aren't you a bit old for that now?"
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
Interesting.
again, if this was 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have been like, "What? Like, no, like I'll do what I want." Like, but now I kind of just took a step back. I actually didn't answer that question, and I had a little bit of a pause, because I know sometimes it's easy to jump into things that gets your back up or gets you irate. And Joe, it did a little bit, but then I was like, well, wait, aren't I a bit old for this? I was like, I'm 34 years old. Like, I'm only like halfway through my career sort of life, or like what I want to create and stuff, before you start slowing down when you get older. And I was just like, okay. But then I realized, for that person to say that, they're probably just a bit more jealous of what I'm actually doing, because they probably would want to do it. And that actually was the case. So it's actually nothing to do with you. So I just had to pause, trust my intuition, and then go.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed, so I very much try and trust my intuition, and I try and kind of really kind of dig into that sometimes, and really kind of listen to myself. I try and eat intuitively. So if I feel like having something, I'll have it. I'll never stop myself from eating something that I want, because I'm like, that's what I want right now. But I'm also quite controlling. So I like to know what's going to happen. Like, I like to know those things, and I know that I can try and control everything. So I have this kind of internal battle of being like, just trust, but also I want to know what the outcome is going to be. And I very much go like that. And I think I was getting like that with dating, actually. So I've kind of taken this year off dating. COVID's been really helpful in that, but I'd already decided I was going to work on myself and everything like that. But obviously my intention always was to go to Australia, and I thought, once I get to Australia, maybe be open to dating and doing all those kind of things. But also I'm unsure what's happening with that. So now there's a part of me that's going, okay, am I now being a block to dating and to trusting what's going to happen and everything like that? Because I know if I was, you know, when we can go out for dinner, if I was out for dinner and someone asked me on a date, I would say no, because I'm going to Australia. So what's the point? So I'm controlling what's naturally happening. So I've been really reflecting of being like, you know, maybe I just need to just be open and just trusting as to cosmic timing and synchronicities, and things happen because they happen for a reason, for a purpose. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more chilled around my feelings around just controlling everything. But yeah, that's been a bit of a learning thing for me over the past couple of weeks, of being like, how controlling am I being? Like, I have no idea when I'm going to Australia. So am I going to put everything on hold in the hope that at some point soon I'm going to be able to go? What am I stopping from happening in that time being? So, you know, I could meet somebody that wants to go to Australia. Who knows?
Could do,
Who knows?
Absolutely.
So
it's weird times at the moment, but you're right. I think it's best to just roll with it. Your intuition tells you what's best, and just follow that. If you deviate, you deviate. Don't beat yourself up about it. That's the best way.
I did not think 3 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. Didn't even know what it was. Wasn't even a thing. Like, had no idea.
So don't you find this interesting that there are some people, probably within your circle even, that had a plan mapped out when they're early 20s, that they're going to work in a company, do this and do that, you know, find love and get married, have it all mapped out. Whereas now you, 3 years ago, you didn't ever said you were going to be doing this. You didn't even know. But now all of a sudden you are doing it. And like, obviously you've had to go through the grind and the hard work, do your deep inner work yourself. But to get here and get there, it's a massive, I don't know what's the word, fulfillment.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
The fact you never knew you were going to be there, here today, doing what you're doing, but you're kind of just going with your
just
intuition.
Going with it. I'm literally just trusting this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I was out for dinner with some friends maybe 2 months ago, and a couple of them are pregnant, because literally all of my friends, I think apart from Amy, have children. I've got a couple other friends that don't, but pretty much everyone has children, married, you know, all of those sorts of things. And we were sat having dinner, and 2 of them were pregnant, and they were talking about baby names. And they're like, Kirsty, like, what are your baby names? I was like, I don't have any baby names. They're like, you don't have any baby names? I was like, no. I was like, I'm thinking about, like, what branding colours shall I use? Like, what's another course that I could do? Like, these are my priorities. That's when I was like, we're just on top. And at some point we'll kind of be in the same sort of places again. But currently at the moment, and my friends are very supportive, but we are in very different places in terms of where our lives are at the moment. Which again, it can be really difficult, and that can really kind of bring out those insecurities. But actually, I'm just like, it's okay. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I trust that this is what I'm meant to be doing right now, and the other stuff will come.
Yeah, completely relate to that. I've got like a priority list in my head. I went to my mum's the other day, and she was asking me about something. She was like, "Oh, because I've just moved into my own flat." She was like, "Oh, so goes, how's the flat doing?" I was like, "Yeah, it's all right." She goes, "Why do you not really explain too much about it?" I was like, "It's literally down there on my list of priorities right now. I've got bigger priorities right now within my business, what I'm doing, my own personal work, rather than worried about my flat. My flat's great. Like, it's here. I'm done. I moved in." Like, do you know what I mean? So you kind of have different priorities where you have to obviously be empathetic towards them somewhat, but at the same time, be in your own space and be happy and comfortable being in there. Because you got your own mission, your own plan. So
Absolutely.
We're going to finish shortly. I have one last question. If you can answer it in about a minute, 30 seconds a minute, that'd be great.
Okay.
What is your mission? The mission in life?
My mission is for myself personally, is to live as authentically as I possibly can. So embrace who I truly am, live my authentic life, do the woo woo, do the stuff, talk how I want to talk, and feel okay with not everybody accepting that. And then I want to be able to show other people that you can be that too, and allow them to be their authentic self as well.
Boom.
Mic drop.
My job. My job. I love that. Oh my God. Well done, Kirsty. Do you know what? This is why I don't structure these podcasts, because you never know what's going to come up. And it was just a really interesting, deep, powerful conversation about a lot of different topics, especially the dating one, which obviously I know we spoke about quite a bit, but yeah, love that. How do you find it?
Yeah, good. I love a chat. I love a chat. Like, I think what I've learned through like getting into coaching and meeting other coaches and stuff is like, it's so nice to be around people that happily like go deep and happily like bare their soul a little bit and be like, yeah, I have insecurities. Yeah. Like I struggle with this, you know, because we very much live in a world of like, it's not okay to talk about your emotions and that you struggle with things and you feel insecure. Like, it's seen as like a fault. So it's so nice when you can have conversations and it's really authentic and there's no judgment. Like, there's no, you know, we're not going, oh, you're a bit crazy. Like, there's nothing. And it makes me feel so happy. Like, that brings me so much joy. Being able to just be authentic, and other people to feel that in your presence and feel like, okay, I can trust you. It's okay to have this conversation. Which is a real gift, I think.
Literally couldn't have said that better myself. And Joe, what, if anyone's listening and you've got this far and you've seen some value in this, like, it is okay to speak up. It is okay to talk about your feelings. It is important to feel all feelings, but it's also equally important to talk about them to the right people at the right time when you feel comfortable. It's super, super important, especially for us men. Any men listening out there, like, do not hold your feelings in. Don't be that guy. Simple as that. And
emotional intelligence is the most attractive thing I think you could possibly have. Like, emotional intelligence, like, I try not to have too much of a list, but emotional intelligence is my number one, of someone being able to be just fully involved in their emotions and understand them and openly talk about them and be okay. Because I think, you know, someone who's going to have children, what an amazing gift to give your children, to allow them to be authentically them. And then imagine we could have like a generation of kids that can talk openly and they practice meditation and mindfulness and they talk about their feelings. Like, imagine how incredible that could be. Like, and it starts with us, and it starts with us talking, and it starts with us kind of being okay with that and encouraging, like you said, men to do the same.
it's a game changer. That is what you just said right there is an absolute game changer, because that's the next generation of people. And unfortunately, with social media, people do express their opinions and their thoughts, which it has expressed. There is a little bit more openness now in the world. However, it's still not there. There is still too many people that sit in silence. So, if you're right, emotional intelligence, I like that. That's true. Super important though, so important. And this is why I'm doing these podcasts. It's why I'm getting people like Kirsty on to come and speak and have an open conversation. Just to know that it is okay. We're putting this out there into the world. Like, you are okay to open up. You are okay to speak. Like, find that person, whether it be me, whether it be Kirsty, reach out to us. Like, we're not going to turn you away and tell you, no, I'm not listening to you. Like, we'll happily listen. So if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Good.
I love a chat.
Good. All right. Kirsty, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Any final words?
I think just be you and be okay with who you are. I think if anything you can get from this is like, you're enough, like you're okay as you are. Like it's okay who you are. Yeah. Also, just if you are feeling like maybe you want to start doing some of that inner work, and that, do it, like trust it and go with it. It's a game changer. It could change your life. It will change your life. Yeah. I would say just start. Yeah. If you've got the fear of starting, try and do something for 1 minute and see if you can stop. Right? It's like, I call it the 1 minute challenge. Like, try and clean for 1 minute. You won't be able to stop cleaning after 1 minute. So it's the same with you. Any internal work, start journaling for 1 minute. You probably won't be able to stop after 1 minute. Yeah. It's a fact. Okay, cool. Look, no, thank you so much for coming on. If you are still listening and you have got this far and you have seen some value in it, and you do know someone that might have or take something out of this, then please do share it with them. I'll put all the links below to get in contact with Kirsty and myself. And let's go have a great life. Yes. All right, cool. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you so much for having me. Do like an air high five. I don't know. Yeah. Got it. Right. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon. Thank you. See you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Ignite Your Mind podcast. This is a safe place for real talk on discovering powerful stories, talking about mental health, real business journeys, and hearing inspiring stories. Please do subscribe if you are listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and leave me a comment. And more importantly, share this with anyone who you think may take value from it. I look forward to seeing you next week.